I think one of the best artists at like branding themselves and create like being associated with a certain feeling and like what to expect and what you're going to get is Wiz Khalifa. Like
Yep.
a lot of people like Wiz Khalifa because they like his personality and they think he's funny and they like, oh, when I want to smoke a joint, I'm going to listen to Wiz. It's not necessarily because he's the most talented rapper. I don't think Wiz himself would be like, oh yeah, lyrically, I am one of the most talented rappers ever. It's like, no, he has a feeling. He has his parameters. He stays in his parameters every time. And like, what to expect and what you're going to get.
Well, an even stronger example of that is just think about how many records come out that emulate this person I'm about to say. And right away, you're just like, oh, that's like a Drake vibe. Right?
Yeah. Oh,
because Drake created a vibe. He created a feeling that like legions of artists just try to emulate now and copy. But we all know that's a Drake vibe.
Yep.
And that's what made him so great, because he created his own lane and he was smart. He knew who to talk to. He knew to talk to girls. He knew how to mix up just enough like street hard shit that dudes wanted to be like, hell yeah, I want to sing it too. And just enough relatability and connecting with females that they're like, oh, this music's for us too. Yep. Right. So you have to, a lot of people go in the studio and just make what they think they're supposed to make. Look, back in the day, earlier in my career, when I was coming up, the way that people described that somebody new was dope is they would say, yo, I met this new kid. He doesn't sound like nobody. Super original. Like you ain't never heard anything like this. And that's what would get people excited. Today, now it's like,
just like this
now
guy.
It's like, yo, this dude's dope. He sounds just like, and it's like, but I already know what that, I'm already a fan of that. Like, I don't want to hear another version of that. And even artists go in the studio now, they throw on auto-tune and they go in and they go, oh, yeah. And then they listen back and they're like, yo, this is lit. Because they're excited because it sounds like something they're a fan of already. And it's like, why are you trying to emulate or copy or be exactly like somebody else? If you're going to take those same tools, do something different with it. Another thing too, don't let auto-tune do all the work. Like, let the power of your voice be the song. You're not even anything. It's auto-tune at that point. It's cool to use auto-tune. I'm not disrespecting him. But some people use it so blatantly that like, that's what the only way you'd ever be able to be an artist. And that's not being an artist. That's being like lazy, right? It's taking something that's not, it's not cool, man. It's not, and it's going to die soon. I'm telling you now, people are getting over of like the copycat, same old. Like, all right, we heard that story a million times. There's only so many bitches to fuck, only so much drugs you can sell, so much money phones you can make, so many Lambos they manufacture. It's just like, bro, like enough with the fucking fake facade lifestyle. Like, you know how many this much of the world that cares about that. You know what the world really cares about? Heartache, missing somebody, like getting over something, vulnerabilities, fears, goals, hopes. Like, the world can relate to that. Not everybody relates to, I got bitches in my room. I got bitches in my room. I fuck every single bitch. I got us. Like, fuck, man. First of all, no, you don't. And then and then second of all, and it's like, fuck, man. Is there any other substance to your life than this like fake story that you're making about your world? You know what I'm saying? And you can tell when something's real. When someone's giving you some real game about the street or some shit they're going through, even if we heard the story before or we've felt the feeling before, say it differently. Come from a different perspective. Don't use the same lines somebody else used or the same exact scenario. Tell us a story from your unique point of view.
Yeah, your stories shouldn't all be, I was there too.
Bro, like there's a song called All I Got Is You by Ghostface Killer. I think you probably know it. And it's like, at that time, like, you would have had to have gone through that shit to connect with that song. Like, that song makes me cry every time I hear it because I relate and connect because I went through the same type of shit. And it's like, today, no one's story's even real for the most part. They're just like adopting somebody else's stories or taking in what they're learning on the internet. I think it's so fucked up that people are like, almost don't even realize they're not being real anymore. Like, they're so bombarded with the internet and stories and fake and documentaries on Netflix and Hulu. And like, it's almost like you forget what really your past was. Because you start connecting and making it part of somebody else's, that you start believing your own fucking lies.
Yep.
So it's just crazy, man. But that's not even just music. That's just humans.
Yeah.
My own girl one day was like, because I grew up with roaches, like the kind of, we've all heard the story now because the internet and everyone's told their stories. But, when you have to turn on the lights and wait for the roaches to scatter and make sure everything was cool, and you see, oh, that one went behind the sugar fucking thing. Let me go get it. Well, then when you're pouring your cereal, like they be in your cereal, you have to fucking pluck them out. Like as a kid, that was normal. You know what I mean? You didn't know better. You weren't like, oh my God, I'm super broke. You're just like, this is part of life, right? And then like, you're doing that shit. My girl says to me one day, she goes, yeah, we were infested by roaches too. And I was like, you were? You know what I'm saying? And she was like, yeah, totally. Da, da, da. I was like, man, you ain't never told me that before. Right. And then she's like, yeah. And her mom comes over one day and I was like, were you guys infested with roaches? She goes, no. And I was like, you didn't have roaches in your apartment when you guys were young in New York? She's like, no. And I was like, Juliana told me you guys were infested. She's like, Juliana. And she calls her down. Right. And then Juliana's like, well, we had like,
at one time
we had roaches. And then she's like, yeah, there was a roach one time in our apartment. So the point of me saying is like, that's normal. The way that she acted, I'm not trying to call her out. That's normal. That's what most people do now. They like adopt stories and they exaggerate, they embellish the truth, or they take pieces of somebody else's story, add it to theirs, which by the way, when you're making compelling music and you're telling stories, that's great, but don't act like it's your story.
Right.
And that's the difference.
Right. Big time. Like in hip hop in particular, it's hard to have a long career because if for so long you kind of have this fake persona, eventually people find out and it like doesn't resonate with people anymore. But like a great example for like the emotional connection and good storytelling and things that everyone can relate to, Eminem,
Jay-Z, Kanye West, Drake, all these people.
People who aren't big fans might be like, I'm kind of sick and tired of hearing him talk about his breakup and his daughter.
Yeah,
but like, Trinidad James isn't making music anymore, talking about gold chains. Like it's the emotion that people connect to is like what can sustain a career for 20 years.
Yeah, and it all doesn't have to be the same emotion. I mean, look at Pusha. Right. Like he's still out here now. He's selling a different feeling. You know what I mean? But it's authentic. And that's the point. He's still the same motherfucker that's talking about drugs and really slick, fucking clever ways that nobody else is doing it. You know what I'm saying? Right. By the way, his new album's fucking dope. So it's just be authentic and real. And by the way, another trend, all of a sudden, like everybody's like 90s grunge emo and hip hop, which is totally fine because everything's, circular and it comes back in waves. But like, bro, I don't want to be here anymore. It's just like, come on, man. It's like, look, I understand people go through like, bummed out times or bouts of depressions and shit like that. But it's like, if you're going to make a song about it, be fucking real about it, man. Don't just try to make it because you're like, it's the trendy topic to talk about.
Yeah.
We don't believe you. You know what I'm saying? It's not fucking real. You know what I mean? So, and by the way, just like getting fake fucking streams, maybe you do feel that way, but the way that you're presenting it makes us not fucking believe that you're dope. Right. Just like if you have fake streams, maybe you are dope, but when we see that the ratio is off, we automatically assume you're not fucking dope because you're lying.